Okay, good evening YouTube. Welcome back to this next episode of FPL Family with me, Lee, and this is Sam. And Sam, I've already promised Daniel in the live chat that I'm not going to talk about VAR this evening. I'm not going to talk about it.
Haven't you already broke that rule?
Well, I have already broken that rule a little bit. I've just realised I've not pressed play for the podcasters. Here we go. Let's do that again. I'm going to do that again. Right, ready? Record for the podcast. Wait for it. We're going to do it.
What's going on here?
Oh, it's not working. YouTubers, 1 second. I've got to do this for the podcast. Otherwise, the podcasters, I get them in my DMs. I get them in the comments of YouTube. Where's the podcast? Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to this next episode of FPL Family with me, Lee, and this is Sam. And I might be laughing because as podcast listeners, you will quickly understand if you read the YouTube comments that I've had to start that again because I forgot to start the podcast. The podcast is now live, Sam. I am recording, and we can get on with what I was saying before.
So you said you weren't going to mention it, so we should just not mention VAR.
So let's not mention it, yeah. We've already done that intro where I wasn't going to mention VAR, so we're not going to mention VAR.
Let's move on then.
Let's move on.
Notice that we're wearing black today because game week 6 felt a little bit like a funeral.
I've just noticed we're both wearing black today, yeah. It sort of feels a bit like that.
In memory of the points that we should have had from game week 6.
Game week 6 feels a little bit like, unless you've got Ivan Tony, unless you've got Marcus Rashford, it felt a bit meh across the board, didn't it? But we'll talk about our teams a bit later on. We'll talk about our overall ranks and how we're getting on. Let's talk about happier things in VAR. We went to our first game together.
Oh my God, I loved it so much.
This season.
I loved it so much.
It was awesome to be back at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, wasn't it? Why are you getting emotional about going back to Spurs? Don't get emotional. We've only just started, Sam. The podcast is only like 1 minute long.
I'm actually crying.
About what? Spurs? For God's sake. I'll go back to VAR in a minute if you're not careful.
Why has that happened?
Let's talk about the Spurs performance. So we'll get onto the game specifically and we'll talk about it from an FPL perspective in a moment. But wasn't it nice to see our friend James from Planet FPL?
That's why I'm crying.
Seeing James.
Nice to see James again.
Nice to see James. Nice to take the children out for the day. Not so nice.
What, like they've been locked in a cupboard? It sounded like then as if you said that.
Well, no, but
take the children out.
But not so nice to watch the Merseyside derby end off. We had to listen to the first half in the car on the way there. When we got there,
traffic, didn't we?
Got stuck in a bit of traffic, which based on the first half highlights that I saw at half time on Twitter. Pretty glad to have missed those, to be honest with you. And then Spurs, fair play to Spurs. Daniel Levy's put this massive screen outside the stadium, which is a great shout because not only do you then the Spurs fans then encouraged to get a little bit early, and you get there early and you watch the game, and you have a couple of beers and a hot dog and all the rest of it. You're spending money in Levy Stadium.
Yeah. But
then also they showed the Manchester City game after the Spurs game at 3:00, so the Spurs fans are kind of inclined to then stay and spend a bit more money at the bars. So Daniel Levy, you're not stupid, Daniel Levy.
No, he's not.
Knows what he's doing, doesn't he?
He's not, but equally, it made for a much more pleasant journey in and out of the Spurs stadium.
Yes,
I don't know how
100%.
you felt about it, but it was the first match that they'd done this for. I think it was a bit of a trial to see how it worked. And I must say, I thought it was excellent. So we stood outside on the South Terrace and watched the game. And the kids wanted a hot dog and you couldn't buy one outside. And I went up to the stewards and I was like, if I come in, can I come out? And he was like, yeah, you're free to come in and out as much as you want.
Right? It's good.
But it was great because, like, normally when you get to Spurs, it's chaos when you first get inside the bottom of the South Stand. And getting down to the West Stand to buy a hot dog and then back to the South Stand is like fighting through a crowd. And when you've got 2 small children with you, it's a bit difficult. But actually, we walked down there, no problem, got the hot dogs, came back out, sat outside. It was really great. And leaving the stadium at the end was much, much easier, walking out and getting away. Apparently, sorry if I blanked... As Max and I were walking out of the stadium, I was doing an Insta reaction, trying to concentrate on doing an Insta reaction, walking down a flight of stairs and making sure I didn't lose
Why
Max.
on earth would you do an Insta reaction at that point?
Because I started it before I got to that point. So I'd started it as we were coming out of the South Stand.
God, blimey. Okay, fine.
Then I got to the stairs much quicker than I thought I would. And apparently, apparently according to Max, some guy was like, Sam! And I completely blanked him because I genuinely didn't know until we'd finished the reaction and Max went, Mummy, that was rude.
One less follower, one less subscriber. Sorry to that person.
What was rude, darling? And he was like, well, you just blanked that man. I was like, oh gosh. Sorry.
Well, there we
Genuinely sorry if it was you.
We've got a few of you in the chat this evening, but yes, it was very nice to be at the stadium. It's great to be at a game. Great to be at a game. Si is in this evening, the midfield master, Jack Colback. Hello, Simon. How are you? 67 points, which, by the way, I think is a cracking score this week. We'll talk about average point scores etc. a bit later on. But he predicted United to beat Arsenal. He left Jesus and Saliba on the bench. Leaving Jesus on the bench was a big call, by the way. A big call, but fair play. Left Pope on the bench too, who had a stormer, by the way. Stormer. We'll talk about Newcastle and their defence later on, because Nick Pope was on another world, wasn't he? He was on another level this weekend. Yeah. So good. Just one quick bit of admin, guys. You might have noticed you need to be subscribed to the channel to be able to take part in the chat this evening. I've put subscriber-only mode on. That is simply because in the last few weeks I've been watching the videos back and we've had some bots coming in and suggesting that you go to certain websites, and we're like, I've got to cut that out. Yet another reason to be subscribed here on FPL Family. So if you're already a subscriber, thank you, and you can chat as normal. So let's get on to saying hello to a few people, Sam. Let's go into the chat. Simon, as I mentioned, is already here. B is here. Hey, B. She says, haven't been to a match yet. Haven't been, but can't wait for the Champions League on Wednesday. You've got to be excited as Spurs fans. B's a Spurs fan.
I'll probably cry again, let's be honest.
Going to be emotional hearing the champions. Getting you going, isn't it?
I was alright about everything until you literally said, wasn't it nice to be back in the stadium? And then I don't know what happened. I
don't know why you've gone
just decided to burst into tears.
Horrendous.
Crazy. But yeah, I'm very excited about Wednesday night. I'm very excited to hear the Champions League music again.
Should be good.
Got to have a move. Sorry, guys.
We've got Paul Cook in. He says he got Pope this week. Well done, Paul. Very good. Duncan Crawford, how you doing, mate? He is Duncan. In. We've got Babani Sanka is in. Hey, guys. Adam is in. 40 points on Wildcard. Is it a tough week if you played your Wildcard this week?
Well, the thing is, the template
tough, innit?
Just went up in the air on this week, didn't it? It was like all the players that you were kind of expecting to do well really didn't, and therefore a Wildcard this week.
Let's just have 2 minutes on that in terms of the overall kind of meta game. Then are we seeing a bit of a breakup of the template now? Finally, are we starting to see some kind of differentials making an impact? Are we starting to think about our wildcards a bit more? Because on the way back from Spurs, you did say to me, I could wildcard this week. And I was like, could you really?
Yeah.
What's your thinking there then? Are you thinking the game is changing a little bit? Are we finally getting a bit of variance?
I just don't think that my mind will change on the players that I want in the next 2 game weeks. I don't think there's any difference in the players that I would want in game week 7 to the players that I would want after game week 8, which is when I'm planning to wildcard. So in my head, it's like, okay, Liverpool have got Wolves this weekend, more on Liverpool later, but don't think I'm really that interested in keeping them, to be honest. I don't see them doing that well against Wolves. The only thing that puts me off the wild card this week is the fact that Man City and Spurs play each other. And that I would be heavily investing in both of those.
Difficult to wildcard into a week that's got that as a fixture,
yes,
I would suggest.
Yes, because I would be heavily investing in both of those. And the other thing that slightly puts me off is it's Champions League week. And obviously when European football's happening, you just have that little bit of uncertainty maybe. Or
the game week after European week is always a bit flaky, isn't it? There's a bit of unexpected rotation.
And it's followed by another week of Champions League action before we go into game week 8 and then before international break. So it is all a little bit complicated, I think. But in terms of the players that I would want, or in terms of the players that I feel like I'm going to get on wildcard, I don't think that will change much in the next 2 weeks. I think there's still going to be a big swing towards owning 3 up top and not having Salah.
Yeah, and that's certainly what I've the title of the video tonight, or if you're watching the replay today, is Should We Sell Mo Salah? So there is definitely a bit of feeling about that. Even Jesus, I noticed, Gabriel Jesus, is dropping in price tonight, I noticed, on Fantasy Football Fix. So again, people starting to lose patience with the template. It is, I think, there are cracks starting to show.
But I think
some of these players,
the cracks are starting to show because of Liverpool. I think that's what's causing it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think, I got...
But the big at the back is starting to crumble a bit as well, right?
I got a lot of grief this week for daring to say that I thought that Trent was sellable on both the official pod and on the Q&A with Az. The amount of stick I got in the Q&A chat on Friday because I said, I think Trent is sellable. I don't think you need him.
How dare you give an opinion, by the way?
Well, how dare you sell... Well, I think it was more how dare I suggest that we sell like one of the really important historic FPL defensive players, like somebody that's been such a priority buy for so many seasons. I kind of cast him out. But then substitute on 58 minutes. I mean, it's like, good grief. There's annoying and there's that.
Yeah.
Particularly when Liverpool went on to keep a clean sheet. So I do think that
was annoying, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think there is very much in my mind, there is very much a move towards no Liverpool.
Right, okay.
And I think that will happen on Wildcard. I don't think I'll own a single Liverpool player. And I think if I wildcarded this week, if I wildcarded heading into game week 8, if I wildcard heading into game week 9, I don't see that would be much different. And that's why I think if you want a wildcard now, you can.
Yeah. All right. Jack Hoden is in. He says Darwin over Salah for me. I must admit, I'm not sure I fully subscribe to your, if I was going to wildcard, I'd have no Liverpool. But I'm not sure whether I'd have the Liverpool I've got right now.
The thing is, that forward spot where Darwin is just way too important. Like, it's just way too important up there at the minute. Like, you've got Mitrovic who...
There's a lot of value there, right?
You've got Mitrovic who's scoring all the time. You've got... All right, Jesus is a conversation we'll have later when we talk about Arsenal. But you've got Haaland, you've got Kane who's scoring every game at the moment. So you could feasibly have a front three of Haaland, Kane, Mitrovic... Even Tony stuck his hat back in the ring, didn't he, this weekend with his performance, and then his trolling of people who sold him. Did you see that?
Oh, nice tweet from Tony, wasn't it, to be fair? Yeah, it's a nice tweet.
So, there's all of that conversation to be had, which I think makes Darwin a really difficult own, because do you really want to take up that third spot with him? That's no disrespect to Darwin as a player. I just think that if you had 4 or 5 forward spots, maybe the conversation's very different.
Yeah.
But with just 3, and with arguably 3 standout attacking players already in Kane, Haaland and Mitrovic.
Yeah.
There is a
bit of a curveball coming back into that Liverpool front 3 as well, because there's a bit of a conversation, but where it's Darwin and it's Diaz and it's Salah, those are the front 3. But Jota coming, he's a bit of a curveball now, coming back from injury, and I just wonder. And also Firmino come on and looked good again, in that game against Everton. So, but listen, we'll talk more about that game a bit later on. Super chat from Simon. He says, "Can I get a shout out to Liam Healy?" Where you go?
Shout out to Liam Healy. What for?
It doesn't say. Just can I get a shout out to Liam Healy?
I mean,
what do you need a reason for? You don't need a reason for shouting out Liam Healy.
I will absolutely give Liam Healy a shout out. The man is an absolute legend. But I just wondered if there was a reason. Did we miss something while we were putting the kids to bed?
Possibly.
Something's gone off in the Slack, I would suggest.
Possibly. If we've missed it, we apologise. Eddie Casey, how are we doing? Clacko is in. Oliver Gordon is here. Martin Tricky Swartz is here. And a whole host of you guys. So, guys, thank you very much for joining us here on FPL Family this evening as we review Game Week 6. Leave us a like on the stream if it's your first FPL Family live stream and you're wondering why you can't get in the chat. Then I've put subscriber only mode on because we've had a few bots in the last few weeks. Hit that subscribe button and then you can chat away after being subscribed for 5 whole minutes to FPL Family. So Sam, let's get into...
5 whole minutes? Is that the rule?
That's the rule. That's what it says, yeah.
Okay.
Subscribe and then after 5 minutes you can start chatting.
Oh, well, there you are then.
Learn something new every day. Let's get on with these games, Sam. We are not going to go through every single game. I always say that and then go through every single game. But let's talk about...
I think we have to start with Liverpool, Lee.
Is that where we're going to start?
I think we have to. I think you've got to rip the Band-Aid off.
Go on then.
Right, go on. No. Go on. You go. I will listen and then I'll give my penny's worth at the end.
Okay. Where do I start with this? I think we were lucky to get a point. I think Connor Cody's goal that was offside easily could have stood.
Oh, no, it was off. I called that offside before. It took so long to decide. And I was going to you and James, it's so clearly off.
Yeah, I was happy, though, that it was Connor Cody in that position and not a striker that could understand where the offside trap was.
Right.
Because Connor Cody being in there, it was a bit like, well, you're a centre-half. You don't necessarily play that position a lot. If it was a striker, it might have been a bit deeper and it might have gone in. Anyway, listen, we had chances, no doubt about it. Pickford was man of the match. I think he made 7 or 8 saves in that game, a couple of save points. So he did have a good game. There was one at the end. Could have been a Salah goal and he tipped it onto the post. There's lots of ifs and buts.
Would have been a DS assist.
But in the overall scheme of things, do we deserve a point? Maybe just. I don't know. But Everton were good. They didn't really need to be exceptional. I thought they were good, but not exceptional, and we just about matched them, and we just about got a point.
Where does it leave us from an FPL perspective, though?
It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult because on another day, Trent stays on for 2 more minutes, he gets 6 points, and none of us are thinking of selling him.
Is that enough, though?
For 7.5, that's okay. Let's not forget he got a double-digit haul a couple of weeks ago, right?
Well, yeah, but other than that double-digit haul, we've not seen anything from him.
It's possible. The thing with the defenders right now, in terms of the big at the back, if you were going to sell Trent, what would you do? Would you go all the way down to a 4 or 5 then, so you've got that money to spend up front?
See, this is the thing, isn't it, right now, is that you look across the defenders that have done well this week, and you're taking players like Trippier, like some of the other cheaper defensive options, and there's plenty of value down in the 4.5, I wouldn't go as low as Patterson, but you could, if you wanted to, just go to 3 at the back and have Patterson and Williams.
Yeah.
But you could go... But there are so many good choices at 4.5, at 5, at 5.5. That money, it makes such a difference between having, like... If you have one of them, you're not losing a significant amount right now from Trent down because they're keeping roughly up with the same level of points.
Yeah.
But when you look at, say, Greenwood or Archer as your third forward, the difference between them and Mitrovic for the roughly the same budget difference is vast.
Yeah.
And that's why, for me, it's not just... I'm not happy with Trent just getting 6.
Yeah. I do wonder whether Liverpool are starting to get some of these injured players back, though, right? So this excuse that we've had for a couple of weeks about we've got no team, and we haven't. Part of the reason we had no shape. That second half in Everton, there were substitutions left, right and centre. And I even turned to you and James, I was just like, I don't know the formation right now. And if I was Trent coming off and then he put Milner there at right back, right wing back, and Everton targeted him, it just wasn't working. So Klopp was like, that's not working. Right, Millie, you get in midfield. Gomez, you go right back. And he brought on Matip. And in my head, I was like, I just don't understand what he's doing. I just don't understand. And I just didn't get the shape, right? And there was one opportunity where, I can't remember, one of their players was clean through. And we were starting with a front 4. You know, you got to hand it to Klopp for going for it. I wonder whether he's already starting to feel the pressure of, the league's looking as if it's gone already. Here we are in game week 6. And City, despite dropping a couple of points themselves and getting a couple of draws, it doesn't look under threat, the title.
Well, you can't...
Not from us.
You can't win it now, but you can lose it. But the league, generally. You can't win the league in game week 6, but you certainly can have lost it by game week 6.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an interesting season, I think, this one, because, we'll talk about Man City later, but they look good. Even with the draw against Aston Villa this week, they still look good, right? So I think Liverpool they've got a hard task on their hand with catching up the points that they've dropped so far this season.
Without a doubt.
And you're coming at it from behind. So what it felt to me like Klopp chased it a little bit this week. He was like, right, we're just going to go for it because these are the players I've got fit. So I've got a load of attacking players fit. So you're all playing in attack.
Yeah.
Which then left you kind of going... And then benching Robertson for SUPERCHAT.
Starting with Harvey and Carvalho, I was like, it's too attacking. There's no control in that midfield. And that's why I'm not going to rush sell Trent, because I do believe when Thiago comes back, and I know I sit here every week and talk about Thiago, but he is that important to Liverpool.
Yeah.
He's that important to Liverpool. And we control games and we dominate midfield so much better when he's there. If Liverpool are missing one of Thiago or Fabinho, it's a problem. If we miss both... We've got no hope. But when they're both together, we do control that midfield, and the wing backs are allowed to go forward in the way that they want to go forward. They can trust that the cover's there, and life's a bit better.
With all due respect, that's fine. But these are players that are costing me 7.5 million, 13 million, and 8 million. I don't want to sit on these while I wait for Thiago Silva to come back.
Sure, yeah.
Like I'm getting
Thiago Alcantara,
whatever his name is. Pointless. Like, all of this stuff, it's too much budget. You're talking about a quarter of my FPL budget in a team that are awful right now. And yes, you're getting some players back, but how long is it going to take for Liverpool to actually start playing well again?
Okay.
And keeping invested because one day they might be Liverpool again. Sorry, there's too many good FPL players right now, and Trent Alexander-Arnold is not one of them.
You ain't selling either of them ahead of Wolves at home, though, are you?
They are. So look at my team right now. They are my biggest problems.
All right. We'll talk about bus teams a bit later on. We'll talk about how we're set for game week 7 coming up. A few super chats have come in. Thank you, guys. Samar 95, 50 points this week, but great week. Milan won the derby. I missed that. So Milan have won the derby. Very nice. Harun is in. Thank you, Harun, for the super chat. Hi, guys. Scored 67. Nice.
Very nice.
67. Bought Rashford this game week. There you go. That's why. For this purpose. Score on the counter. Bought in Tony as well last game week. 50k overall in the world. Nice. Two really good moves. Liam is in. Hey, Liam. He says thanks for the super chat. He says cheers for the shout out. Hope you're both well. Come on, you Reds.
But I don't understand what this is about.
What about the shout out for Liam? Yeah. Just giving Liam a shout out. What's the problem?
Something must have happened. I'm going to have to go in the Slack later and find out what's going on.
So you are. We'll talk about Salah a bit later on, but you are firmly in the I want rid of him camp.
All of them. All 3 of them I want rid of.
All 3 of Liverpool. I must admit...
3's too many, Lee.
Going into the game week with Salah and Diaz, that is... You're looking for Liverpool to be scoring a lot of goals. You're double Liverpool attack right now, and that is an overinvestment, definitely.
Owning 2 of them, Salah and Trent, is an overinvestment right now.
All right. What about Everton from their perspective then? Anything to shout about there? I noticed on the Fantasy Football Scout members area that top 4 XG underachievers this week, Neil Maupay for Everton. Any FPL thoughts? I can see the look on your face. You're not thinking about Maupay.
He was... I mean, yeah, all right, he had a couple of chances, but... No, he was awful. He wasn't exactly clinical, was he? It was typical Maupay. You know, when I spent too much time with Az, haven't I, listening to Maupay chat. But basically, the guy can't finish ball at the moment. And we saw that again against Liverpool. Getting all the chances, not finishing, not clinical. So, no, from my perspective, if you want to have Nathan Patterson, fine.
They're looking slightly better, the Toffees, but I think they're away at Arsenal next, and you're not investing ahead of that. Maybe we'll sit here and have this conversation next week, because I think it's looking at the ticker: West Ham, Southampton, and then United and Spurs. So 8 and 9 doesn't look too bad, but for now, not too much to shout home about from Everton. Although they did get a very well earned point in this
derbies, though. Strange things happens in derbies.
Yeah, for sure.
They'll get themselves up for a home derby, right? So,
all right.
And they did.
Let's talk about another team that did well to get a point. Aston Villa won, Manchester City won. FPL's biggest troll so far this season. The award goes to Mr. Leon Bailey, surely, after we've all sold him. But the Norwegian beast scores again from an absolute beaut of an assist from Kevin De Bruyne. I don't know if you've seen this cross from KDB, but it was out of this world. And Haaland is going to feed off those all day long.
So,
go on.
Well, this is why I don't want Salah.
Right, because you want De Bruyne.
Because you look at KDB and you look at the magic that comes from that kid's boots. He's not really a kid, is he? He's probably that much younger than me. That man's boots. And he's an unbelievable talent in a team that's playing well. And he is making crosses for Haaland, who literally is just 10 goals.
He just finishes, doesn't he?
6 games.
He just finishes.
10 goals. He scored more goals this season than most of the teams in the league combined.
I noticed there's a Twitter account that is tracking Haaland's goals against Preston North End's goals. I don't know why they picked on Preston North End, but so far Preston have scored 2 goals this season and Haaland's got 10 or whatever.
I noticed that before I came on, Sky have put out a thing on Instagram, which is they basically put Haaland on his own in the league table, and he comes on for goals, and he sits just behind Spurs. He's with 10 goals, same as Leeds, he scored. And
this is why the Salah narrative is going to get some airtime, right? Because all the conversation leading up to game week 1 was Kane or Haaland. Kane or Haaland, choose between the two. They're both performing well. There's no way you can not have Haaland in your team, in my opinion.
No.
But if you want Kane as well, then you have to sacrifice something else. And at the moment, it feels like Salah's the way to go.
Because you can have KDB instead. So you can have a team that has KDB, Haaland and Kane.
Can you?
Yeah, quite easily.
Okay.
Because if you sell Salah and bring him down to KDB, you're saving yourself a chunk of, $1 million?
Million, yeah.
And then that allows you those extra millions, particularly if you're happy to sell one of your other premium defenders and go for a 4.5, a 5 million. It suddenly becomes an easier option to have the 3 premiums in your team.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I think I'd far rather be invested in Man City at the moment, attacking. So I've got the double up defensively. So I was furious with Leon Bailey. I can't tell you how furious I was with Leon Bailey. Because...
There's a belter as well, isn't it? What a goal.
But why wasn't he doing that when he was in my team?
That's what I said. He's the season's biggest troll so far.
I spent all pre-season bigging him up on everything in it to anyone who would listen. He did absolute nonsense, nothing. Benched by Gerrard every 5 minutes. Comes on, takes away my double City clean sheet.
What are we saying about Coutinho's goal? I'm not talking about VAR, but I mean, how have they got away with that again? Man City. And I say again because they got away with a similar sort of situation against Palace, where Palace should have been 3-0 up at the Etihad the other week.
Let's not talk about it.
I have to get it off my chest somehow.
You're going to get upset.
I have to. It's therapeutic. I have to talk about VAR. I have to get it out.
Let's just
chill out about it.
Just chill out. You can't fix it.
I can't chill out about it though, because City should have dropped points there. That Coutinho goal should absolutely have stood.
Look, you can't worry about City dropping points until you stop doing it yourself.
That's true. Fourth is the new first in terms of Liverpool. Yes, you're right. So, talk to me about Aston Villa then. With City, I think the conversation finishes there. You have Haaland. Does Cancelo fit into your not big at the back theory?
No.
You still want to keep him?
Yes.
Okay. I noticed actually in the Fantasy Football Scout members area, he was back in the touches in the opponent's half statistic, the one that we look at every single week. Tyler Adams, interestingly, from Leeds, was first in that statistic. Second across the game week was João Cancelo. Yes, João Cancelo. So he's back on the touches in the opponent's half statistic. So he's back up there. So again, at a reasonable game without getting too many fantasy points, right? So he doesn't fit into your, I want to sell Trent, I want to sell James, I want to sell everybody at the back.
So, but part of the reason I want to sell Trent and I want to sell James is because the teams that they play for aren't playing well. So you're not going to get clean sheets out of these players. Whereas I look at Manchester City and they are playing well. All right, they've lost the clean sheet this time, but they've lost the queen sheet? What's a queen sheet? They've lost the clean...
What is the queen sheet?
I don't know what the queen sheet is. They've lost the clean sheet to an absolute worldie of a goal from Leon Bailey that he can't do again if he tries. So,
Oof! Savage.
Shots, Leon Bailey.
Savage.
Shots.
Has Stevie Gerrard got himself a bit more time?
He's bought himself another week. And actually, I think the axe is falling more firmly in Brendan Rodgers' direction right now.
Feels like it,
but for me, investing in the City defence still feels worth it for sure. I think
you're doubled up though, are you? Is that? I mean, they are conceding the odd goal every week. I mean, they're banging them in left, right, and centre, but they're
on Wildcard, I will move away from Edison and I'll move for KDB instead. So right. I'll end up with a more attacking formation. But I do still, like I say, Leon Bailey's not scoring a worldie every week, is he? So, but to be fair, I had that absolutely nailed for 12 points for Cancelo and Edison this week. When I was looking at my team thinking, as I do every week, how many points am I going to get this week? I had them down for a 12. I was like, that's easy. 12 points there.
Yeah.
6 for Reece James, 6 for Trent. I was thinking, that's my back line this week are going to do really well.
Okay.
Absolutely did not.
Okay. Let's have a look at Aston Villa's fixtures going forward. And the reason I wanted to highlight this is because despite the fact that the Fantasy Football Scout ticker has got Leicester, and I think we mentioned this last week, has got Leicester City down as a sort of middling game, you've got to say right now that going to the King Power should hold no fear whatsoever for any team.
Next?
Well, it's Aston Villa. That's why we're talking about it. We've got Leicester next, then Villa at home to Southampton, away at Leeds, and then Forest. The next 4 look pretty much as good as you could get for Aston Villa. Those next 4 fixtures. I mean, this is a... Are we in Leon Bailey back in territory?
No, stop it.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Right, you bring Leon Bailey back in.
Well, listen, you want all these big premiums. We've got to accept some...
Sell Salah for him.
Well, I'm just saying, with the next 4 fixtures, was there anybody else at Villa that caught your eye outside of Bailey? If you're so against Bailey, you've got to be able to look at somebody else.
Honestly, what do you think is going to happen in that Aston Villa versus Leicester game?
I think Villa will win. Leicester all over the place. Not see them today.
Yeah, but
Brighton have started this season defensively very good, but they're not exactly known for scoring tons of goals, and they've got 5 goals.
Aston Villa, apart from this game, have been awful. So I think that game is potentially awful.
Right, okay. Such a positive mood you tonight.
No, but seriously, do you think Aston Villa versus Leicester is going to be a good game? Both of those managers surely have got to be fighting for their jobs.
Well, I think they probably are, yeah. But Villa will have some, they've just drawn to City. I mean, Christ, they're going to be going into that game full of beans, aren't they? And
Bet you Gerrard benches Bailey.
They go to the King Power. They beat Rodgers. Gerrard beats his old mate Rodgers. Then they go into Southampton at home, Leeds away. These are, Leeds and Forest and Leicester are right up there amongst the XGC crew. I mean, they're top 3 or 4, them. And then they've got Southampton at home in between. So Southampton aren't exactly watertight. That's 4 brilliant games for Villa. If Stevie's going to turn it round, these are the games he's going to do it, surely. You're not convinced, are you? You're not convinced.
I don't trust Villa.
The only reason I wouldn't want to go back to Bailey, despite him being a bit of a troll, is that it doesn't seem as if he's that nailed on in that first 11.
He'd get benched.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of those games, at least, he's benched.
Yeah. All right.
I don't trust him to be playing. If Gerrard came out tomorrow and said, I'm going to play Leon Bailey in each of the next 4 games, he's going to start, then maybe.
Who else from Villa then? Ollie Watkins?
No, because the front 3 spots are too important. Okay. Defensively, it depends what happens with Cash, because he got injured, didn't he? So let's see. They might not be that solid there. Buendia maybe at a push.
No.
But I don't think there's anyone. And this is my thing, is that if you're going to invest in somebody, like I get what you're saying about Leicester being a team to target. For sure they are. But do you really want to invest in Villa right now? Okay. Do we really believe that was a turning point for them?
All right, well, listen, you're not convincing me, so let's move on then. Let's talk about, where else do you want to go? Let's talk about the game that was on this afternoon, which was a cracker, by the way.
Great
Manchester
game,
United 3, Arsenal 1. Arsenal's 100% record start to the season has been beaten. Manchester United, very, very good, you have to say. I mean, there was a tactical tweak that Arteta made in the second half that really opened up the game, and Arsenal... I mean, Eriksen and Rashford were like a knife through butter for that third goal, weren't they? So Arsenal were a little bit at 6s and 7s. You've got to, I think, give a little bit of a shout out to Arteta for at least trying to go for the game and trying to get something out of the game. I mean, in his post-match comments, he did come out and say, look, this is a game we should expect to come to Old Trafford and win. So that's the sort of mentality at Arsenal now, which I really like. But got beaten by the better team on the day, I think.
It's interesting, this one, wasn't it? Because... We spoke, I think, last week, and I seem to have spoken a lot this week about how I found this game a really difficult one to call, because obviously Arsenal have started the season incredibly well. Manchester United started the season awfully, and then the game against Liverpool was a bit of a turning point for them.
4 wins on a spin for them now, right? And Palace away next.
Yeah, and since that moment, they have been actually, since the moment I sold Rashford, they've been building up to what is now looking to be a bit more of a Ten Hag side, a bit more what I was kind of expecting when in pre-season, when I was banging on about Rashford every 5 minutes. This is sort of what I was expecting from Manchester United this season, this kind of attacking football that Ten Hag deployed at Ajax and was always very good at. We're starting to see that now. I thought Anthony had a good
solid, right? Looks all right.
Yeah, debut for the team. I thought he fitted in quite nicely. I thought Rashford was good again. Like, they've improved dramatically over the last few weeks.
I tell you who's making a difference for them at the minute, and I have to say I was wrong about this. When he came to the club in the summer, I thought Eriksen was there largely as a sort of, let's put a world-class match winner and a mentality in the dressing room. I thought he was there for the dressing room, really.
Well, partly.
I didn't think he'd get that many minutes, but he can't drop him at the minute, Ten Hag.
No.
He was the difference today, Eriksen. Brilliant. And Bruno's improving, no doubt. Whether he's ever going to get back to his FPL best that we saw a couple of years ago, I don't know. But Eriksen is absolutely keeping them ticking over right now. And I thought Eriksen might not have the legs. He might sit a bit deeper in that midfield and sort of hold and anchor a little bit more. Not a chance.
No.
He's there and full of beans attacking, and it's making Rashford and the others... find those spaces in behind. Rashford was sensational today, I thought.
But I thought Eriksen started the season quite badly. Those first couple of games when United were poor, Eriksen was poor.
Yeah.
And he's improved a lot over the last few weeks. Now, that might be to do with his, physical health and just being fitter and more, after a summer and what have you. But everything about Manchester United in the last couple of game weeks it takes a step up every time I watch them. Every match, it was like I was really impressed with them against Liverpool. But then Liverpool were poor, and I wasn't sure how much that was about Man United and how much was about Liverpool.
Yeah.
But then the games that they've followed since then, culminating in today, when they were playing against an Arsenal team that's been in great form, they were great today, Manchester United. They were really good value for the win.
The Ten Hag era is starting to take shape, isn't it?
You can see
he's not taking any prisoners. Even when the first week he arrived, he was like, Wan-Bissaka, get in the bin straight away. Then he's like a couple of weeks in, he's like, right, this is not working.
Biscuit jar.
Maguire, it's just not working, lads. Get out. I'm sorry. And he brought in some fairly unknown quantities to the league. Let's face it, Malacia. We'd not seen anything of Malacia. We know Martinez is a good defender, but unproven in the Premier League. And he's bought them in. They're doing a bloody good job, to be fair.
Yeah.
He's then brought in. He's binned Ronaldo, so that kind of circus is kind of been put on hold. Now it'd be interesting to see what happens with Ronaldo, because he's there now until January, right? Whether he likes it or not, he's got to play football for that club, and he's got to turn up to training week in, week out. So what he does with him, I don't know, but certainly not giving him any game time right now, which is
come on today, didn't he?
He did, yeah, he did, and it looked all right. Okay,
I thought I saw
but listen,
him.
He's not starting games.
Well, I don't think he will, because how's he going to get in that team with the way that they're playing right now? You've got an attacking front three of Anthony, with Eriksen, with Rashford. Like you've got players that are playing really well in those positions, that have gelled, where the kind of bravado and the slight arrogance seems to have just sort of tampered a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's not that kind of Man United swagger that we're used to in, years gone by, but it's a different kind of cohesive unit, maybe.
It's hit differently, this little run that they've put together, because we've had this in previous seasons under previous management. In recent years, Manchester United have pulled together a decent run of fixtures, a decent run of results, I should say, and you get the Rio rubbing the hands, Ollie's at the wheel, you get the Roy Keane, oh, we're back, all the rest of it, and the United fans are like, come on, this is United, we're back. It's hitting differently. This, have you noticed? They're not getting, the United fans are not, they're not like, oh, we're back, this is it. The expectations are being tempered. They can see that there's some gradual improvement there.
But don't you think?
And it's something different about the way they're playing at the minute, honestly.
Well, because I think in past they've always felt the need to big them up when things start going well, because it always felt temporary with United. Like, to me, whenever they started, since Ferguson's left, whenever they've started to improve, it's always felt that it might be a temporary thing. So everyone goes massive on it in a way of kind of trying to want to keep the momentum going and let's keep the positivity up. Whereas with Ten Hag in charge, you kind of feel like this is a change for forever. Like, it doesn't feel like, it's something that's going to run out of steam in 2 game weeks' time. It feels like he was learning a lot in those opening couple of game weeks of the season where he wasn't doing particularly well. But they've grown as a unit. They've worked on the players and the strategies that he's deployed. He's not fallen back into old habits. He's made the changes and he's made them better.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, I think everybody's kind of looking at it and going, I can start to see a new era coming. And I think from FPL, that's really important because they've got a nice fixture. They've got a nice set of fixtures now.
Well, let's have a look at those fixtures going forward, because they go away to Palace next week, which is on paper not the easiest fixture. Palace looking very, very good, although I've got some analysis later on which I will share about high XGC, and Palace do feature on there, particularly around set pieces.
Oh, Eriksen again.
Set pieces they're a little bit vulnerable at set pieces, Crystal Palace. So the form that they're in, going to Selhurst, it's not an easy game, don't get me wrong, not an easy game. But then after that, it's Leeds at home. I mean, that's a plum fixture for game week 8. Then it's the Manchester derby, difficult game. Everton away, Newcastle Spurs. It's that Leeds game in 8. And I do think, and I do wonder whether, and I know a lot of you will be thinking this, I'm thinking it as well at the moment, is the right time to play the first wildcard between game weeks 8 and 9. I currently, that's my plan. It might change depending on how things move. But the template, the sort of tectonic plates of the template are starting to shift a little bit. We're starting to see a bit of Mo Salah out narrative. We're starting to see United assets come back to the fore a little bit. We've got the Núñez factor coming in. I do wonder whether over the next couple of game weeks after 8, it might be the right time to play the wild card. So in my head, I'm thinking, all right, well, if I take a very, very short-term view and I say, right, I'm just going to look at players for 7 and 8 because I'm going to play my wild card in 8, are United the right team to have a look at with Palace and Leeds? I think they probably are. If you want a really, really short-term punt, that's the team to go to.
Like, I'd far rather spend a little bit more budget and go in with Eriksen, go in with Rashford over go for a punt on Leon Bailey because he plays Leicester. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be confident that Aston Villa are going to turn up and do Leicester. Like, even with Leicester being as bad as they are. But with Manchester United, I feel like going into these next couple of fixtures, we have seen a change. We've seen a buoyancy about them now. We've seen more of a resilience about them now as well. Because in the past, when Arsenal had got that goal back, if that had happened in game week 1, they'd have taken the lead, Arsenal pulled a goal back, I'd have put money on Arsenal going on and finishing off that game as the winners.
Yeah.
But actually, they showed some real fight back in that game and then took the lead back again and kept it right the way through to the end of the game. So I was really impressed by Manchester United today. They are definitely a team that I'm looking at. Whilst I think Crystal Palace can score, so I wouldn't look at the defensive line, I also think that Crystal Palace have some vulnerabilities at the back that Manchester United can exploit. And with the way that they're playing and the cohesion that we're seeing with those forward players, I think they will exploit it.
All right. Okay, let's just those stats that I was talking about a second ago. I have pulled together a couple of slides on that. So let me talk you through this. So this is from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. So if you're not a member of Fantasy Football Scout yet, then definitely consider doing that.
You've been busy while I've been putting up the kids to bed and that.
Well, I've got this kind of narrative. I see a couple of people in the chat. Steve, narrative. Duncan Crawford, good old narrative. Here comes the word again. I can't help it. I've got to think of some synonyms for narrative. But I've got this narrative in my head about, is game week between 8 and 9 the right time to play the wild card? And if it is, and I know a lot of you are thinking about that, if in the international break it's the right time to play the wild card, then the next 2 game weeks, you can have a bit of fun, can't you? You can go against template, knowing that if you get it wrong, you can fix it.
Well, that's what I've been saying about Salah. You can sell Salah, because if it's wrong, you can get it back on wildcard. So yes, I agree with you.
Okay, so if we generally feeling that way about the next 2 weeks being a bit of fun, what I've done is have a look at those teams that have got the best 2 fixtures in the next couple of weeks. Now, the reason I put this up here is because these are the teams, in my mind, that we want to be targeting right now. So I've organised it and I've sorted the table. And by the way, like I say, this is from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. All the links are in the description below if you want to become a member of the Fantasy Football Scout website. Great website. We use all the stats here live on the stream. I've sorted it by minutes per XG on target. So what does that mean in plain English? That means expected goals conceded on targets. This is teams that are allowing lots of high quality chances. Teams that are conceding a lot of shots on target. And by the way, there is a direct correlation between these teams you can see here. If you were to sort it by minutes per XG as well, you get the same sorts of candidates, right? These are the teams that you've got to be targeting when you're talking about looking at the next couple of weeks. These are the teams that are allowing lots of big chances, etc., etc. No surprises to see those sorts of teams on there. Maybe Fulham, but they are...
no, I'm not surprised by Fulham, because they are allowing a lot of big chances, but they're also doing well attacking.
Being fairly clinical up top. Yes, of course. The only team, like I say, that doesn't feature on here is Crystal Palace. Like I say, their minutes per XG is propped up a little bit. I think if I was to extend the table down a couple of rows, they'd probably start seeing a Crystal Palace on here because of their vulnerability to set pieces.
Okay.
But actually, this table, these are the teams you want to target. So actually, when you start to look at the teams, if you sort the Fantasy Football Scout ticker by difficulty over the next 2 game weeks, these are the teams at the top. So Forest have got, according to Fantasy Football Scout, the best 2 fixtures with Leeds and Fulham. And what I've done is I've put a red ring around those that are in the table that you've just seen. Those ones that we should be targeting. Here are the teams that are going to be playing against those teams that you should be targeting. So Forest are playing Leeds and Fulham up next. So I've put, and this is just a sample, right? There are lots of different punts, lots of different fun picks that you could have over the next couple of weeks. If this is your narrative, if this is your strategy, if you do want to play that wild card after game week 8, then looking at someone like a Brennan Johnson who's 1.5% owned with Leeds and Fulham up next, looking at like a Pascal Gross or a Trossard or a McAllister for Brighton, look like very, very good punts. In fact, Pascal Gross, given he's got Bournemouth up next and then the set piece vulnerable Crystal Palace in game week 8, I'm absolutely going to be keeping him in my team. Then you talk about, so here comes the Man United thing, right? So this is why I wanted to tag it onto the back of the Man United conversation. So they do have Crystal Palace up next, which, as I say, according to this fixture, on paper, that's a difficult game. But Palace are not, they're not watertight. Palace, they're not watertight. They're not up there in the top 5 for XGC against or anything like that.
No.
And set pieces, they're vulnerable. And then they play Leeds in game week 8. You could talk a bit about Southampton at home to Brentford and Villa, etc. Newcastle have got Bournemouth coming up. Leeds have got Forest, etc. But if you were to then look at of those teams that have got those nice fixtures and are playing the teams that we should be targeting over the next couple of weeks, you can start to pick out a few punts like Johnson, like Trossard, like Anthony, for example. Already, by the way, 2.5% owned. So there's already getting a little bit of traction after today, right?
That's Man United fans.
Or you've got Isak from Newcastle for 7 million, still at 3.8% owned, who has got West Ham away, which on here is not an easy fixture, but the way the Hammers are playing, it could be. And then Bournemouth at home in game week 8, for which you think you would want some Newcastle coverage. How do you feel about my thinking here? Am I thinking along the right lines? If you want to play that wild card in 8 and 9, knowing that any mistakes you make, you can fix with that wild card, it's okay to have a couple of punts, isn't it? It's okay to have a bit of fun with it next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what I've been saying for a couple of weeks now, is it's okay to sell your Liverpool assets and go for a couple of punts, because if it's really that badly wrong, your Liverpool assets are going to be the same price as they are in game week 9 or just before game week 9 when you can bring them back in on wildcard.
So could I tempt you with a Salah to Anthony and a 4.5 forward to Isak? Could I tempt you with something like that in the next couple of weeks?
I can very much...
Knowing that if you get it wrong and Salah starts banging again and Liverpool get the finger out of the backside, you can fix it with your wildcard.
Well, at the moment, my current thinking is that I'll probably do something like Diaz to McAllister and take Greenwood up to Mitrovic.
So you're still fearful of that salary, aren't you?
Well, no, because I don't need to sell Salah in order to. So if I couldn't afford to do that, if I wanted to go to Kane, which I don't for Manchester City, I don't think.
Okay.
Then I'd sell Salah. So for game week 8, I'd be very tempted to switch out Salah for and Jesus
for
Kane.
Okay.
Because if it's wrong, it's fixable, isn't it?
Yeah.
On Wildcard. So I totally buy into what you're saying, because for me, all of these players that you're talking about investing in are, I mean, some of them are out there, some of them aren't that out there, some of them are quite nice picks. But I look at them and go...
But they're all under 4% owned.
But they're all huge differentials. They'll all help you break the whichever overall rank position you are in at the moment, if you're struggling to get out of the 1 million, 2 million, 5 million bracket.
You get a 10 plus points from any of those, and that's worth about 300 or 400k at the moment, isn't it?
Probably more.
Yeah.
Probably more. So it is. And the risk, so there's always a risk if you sell Salah, but his EO is not going over 100 at the minute. Ever.
No.
So, and it's not going to go over the 100 for a while, I wouldn't have thought, because ownership's not high enough and he's not being captained. Because everyone's putting the captaincy armband on Haaland.
So are the masses, so if you did sell Salah now, and say it went wrong and you bought him back in your wildcard, would you captain him then? Where are Liverpool for our fixtures? Wolves or Chelsea away? Chelsea away, you're not going to captain him, are you?
No.
Wolves at home, would you captain him? Or would you go Haaland at home at Spurs?
I don't trust Salah with the captaincy armband.
Arsenal at home to Everton, by the way, so that's an option.
Jesus is, yeah. They'll want to bounce back.
I don't even think that's a question, by the way.
But you can't
Salah
captain...
or Haaland captain next week? I think it's Haaland.
I don't think you can captain Salah at the moment.
No.
I really don't. And obviously we've got some Champions League action to come before any of this happens.
Lots to happen this week, of course.
So there's a lot to come.
Yes.
But I look at
Hold those transfers.
I look at Salah at the moment and I think you're not worth... Would I pay 8 million for you right now? I don't know. I don't think I would.
Disrespect.
No, but it's not disrespectful. It's the honest truth. Salah's a good player. There's no doubt. He's a great player. But he's not an FPL.
He's all right.
But he's not an FPL asset right now. And we have to take off this historic bias towards Salah when he's 13 million and he's performing at less value for money than our 6 million midfielders. And it's that for me means that Salah is a sell.
Okay. All right. Very good. So it sounds like you're largely on board with my have a bit of fun over the next couple of weeks and see how it goes. Yeah. Fairly maverick, laissez-faire sort of approach.
Because they're not actually that maverick. These are players that are doing well in teams that are playing well and have good fixtures. The only maverick thing is that you're probably selling a premium to buy one of them. So you could end up with a situation where you have 8 million in the bank.
Totally. So United very good today. Arsenal, any panic?
No, don't panic.
They could have been a different game if Martinelli's goal wasn't ruled out, which I think was
don't start. Don't start again.
No, it's not going to be. Sorry, VAR, wasn't it? Sorry.
Stop.
Sorry. We'll put VAR back in its box.
Get in its box.
Yes.
I don't panic on your.
But the VAR, terrible decision, wasn't it? Sorry. Put it back in its.
Let's talk about Jesus for a minute, because I think he is the conversation to be had. So I wouldn't be panicking on your Arsenal assets. I think if you own Martinelli, if you own Salah, if you own Zinchenko, now he's fit again, they're not a they're a hold, because at their price points they're performing well. It's one bad game week in 6. Like, that's it really. They've been fantastic, and we can't and they've come up against a Manchester United team that played really well. So for me, the Arsenal guys aren't really an issue. Jesus is a slightly bigger conversation, I think. Because we've already said, and I've already said a couple of times tonight, that those front 3 positions to me are so important and so valuable. Now, Jesus is owned by 80% of the game. Last time we might have gone under that now, because I think some people are starting to lose the plot with him.
He's still very highly owned.
But he's still very highly owned, which for most of us as seasoned FPL managers makes you really seriously consider whether you want to part ways with him. Because
absolutely,
if you do, against Everton next, and he bangs, he will be over 100% EO, because he will be captained by people who don't trust Salah and don't know they want to get involved in Man City Spurs for the captain's armband.
Okay.
So I think he's a hold right now. But I think if he blanks again against Everton, then going into game week 8, if you know anyway you want a wild card after that, there or thereabouts, then, and you want to go to Kane, or you want to get Mitrovic, or you want to change the way that your team is playing, then I don't think we should be fearful of the selling in.
All right, let's move on, Sam, because we're rapidly running out of time. We've got to talk about Spurs as well, which is now a podcast in itself with you here. So without keeping your emotions in check, Spurs 2, Fulham 1, you were good.
I'd like to issue a public apology.
I know who you're going to apologise to. I've got a feeling. Go on. He's now your favourite player, isn't he? You hated him before. You love him. He's
not my favourite player, but I will issue Richarlison a public apology. My God, that man was excellent.
He was very, very good.
I sat in the South Stand in total shock and disbelief at the work ethic that Richarlison showed in that game. Because that's the thing it's always really wound me up about Richarlison, is I've always considered him to be a lazy...
Luxury
player, yeah, exactly. That's how I've always considered him. This game, every single ball... he made himself available. He was a pest.
He was a menace the whole game.
He drove the Fulham defence insane because he was everywhere and he was excellent. He was by far and away the best player on our pitch. Somebody in the Slack asked, is he now an option in FPL? I don't know, is my honest answer at the moment. I think if you want to have fun for the next 2 game weeks, like you said, maybe not for Man City, but maybe for the one after, heading into Wildcard, then maybe. We're going to see some rotation at Spurs, as we did in this one. We saw Ben Davies getting a rest.
Yeah.
We saw Perisic getting a rest. We saw Kulusevski getting a rest. Champions League action this week. Champions League action next week. Massive game next Saturday night against Manchester City. So
a busy week for Spurs this
time. And a hugely important week for Spurs. So not surprised to see the rotation. Do I think that Richarlison did enough to warrant a starting spot in that team? I absolutely 100% do. I really do. He was great. I don't think I'd invest from an FPL perspective, certainly not ahead of Manchester City, but going into game week 8 and beyond, if we start to see more consistency of starts, then yes, I think he could be. But it was the first game, and I don't know how you felt, because obviously you came too, but it's the first game I've watched Spurs this year and genuinely thought we played well in that game.
You did play well, and Spurs could have scored more than 2.
We're 2 ruled out for VAR.
No doubt about it. And I feel I actually felt a little bit for Heung-min Son, because I don't know what that guy's got to do to get a goal.
Left his confidence in Korea this summer.
He didn't show it the weekend.
He
had one ruled out for VAR. He had one off the underside of the bar. He had one where Leno pulled out a great save. It just wasn't his day. And I don't know how many times we can say it wasn't his day. But right now, you can't invest 12 million in him. I personally don't think Richarlison is an asset.
Not now,
he's not. Right now.
Not right now.
But Harry, again, doing the business. Notice he come off a little bit early, which...
First time that's happened.
I think that's going to be a bit of a thing going forward before UCL games, because he's now got the tools at his disposal, Conte, to be able to do that.
Don't think it'll happen this weekend.
What, against City? No, probably not. But, it's just he's got that option now to rest Kane if he wants to, right?
Yeah, he has. And he can do it. But Kane's returned in, 5 of 6 now? Just game week 1 he didn't return in. Since then, he's been really consistent.
No, like big hauls, though, right?
But... I think that says more about Spurs than it does Harry at the moment. We just hadn't really found our rhythm. Whereas in this one, we could have won 4-5-1.
In my head, though, I do wonder whether... And to be fair, the Fulham game was potentially a bit of an exception because you could have had more goals. But so far, I'm seeing this very efficient, almost like get to 2 goals, and we know that we've got enough defensively to not let the opposition score 2 goals. Sort of Conte performances. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't see you going and like smashing teams 5 and 6-0. I just don't see it.
We haven't seen it yet.
I just see Conte just getting the job done.
We haven't seen it yet, but the reality is, if by the end of the summer, come May, when the season is wound up and everything's kind of FPL is done. If Kane continues at this rate and he's got 35 goals for the season because he's averaging 1 a game,
you take it.
You take it and you'd invest. Yeah. So this is the thing. I think it's very easy at the moment to go, well, you don't have Kane because you're having Haaland, because Haaland's getting a hat-trick every other week. Well, yes, that's true, but why would you not have both, is my argument. Because they're both... All right, Kane's not performing with the same level necessarily as Haaland is. Like, in terms of City are going to they're going to score 4-5 in
Sure.
a lot of games.
Sure.
But Kane is going to be Spurs' top goal scorer this season. I don't have any doubt about that. And if he continues at this pace, we're going to be talking about 30 plus goals for him. So why would, if you're going to have the league's top 2 scorers, and you can have Mitrovic, who if he carries on is going to also be in that category as well.
Well, let's talk about this guy. I mean, listen, he's I don't know how he does it, because he wasn't massively in the game.
We did
at
well
Spurs.
with him. We managed him.
I thought he looked like he was going to have a bit of an off day, and then all of a sudden he smells
one chance.
He smells blood. Have you noticed this
Yep.
with Mitrovic? It's just like he could not be in the game, but if you give him half a chance, he'll take it. And I don't know how many goals he's got, but he's scoring every damn week at the minute. Even when Fulham are losing games, he's the guy that gets the goal.
Yeah.
He looks like incredible value. And I just want to have a look ahead to Fulham's fixtures, because that's the reason we've all kind of delayed on Mitrovic a little bit, because he had Spurs, now he's got Chelsea next, but actually that's not looking too bad a game.
That looks investable.
So then it's Chelsea, then it's Forest, then it's Newcastle, which looks like the tricky fixture amongst all of these, quite honestly. Then it's West Ham, Bournemouth, Villa. Listen, if I haven't got Mitrovic in my team in game week 8, well, I will have. I will have. He'll be there.
I want Mitrovic now.
Yeah. The Chelsea game should not... I mean, they are not exactly watertight, are they?
Honestly, sitting in the stands yesterday watching Fulham, I was never really that worried about our goal. Like, they weren't really a massive threat going forwards. Yeah. We did control the game well. We played well. But he had 2 chances in that game. The first one he took, and as soon as he got it, I turned to Max and I was like, oh... Because it was the perfect Mitrovic goal. He took it really well. And then he had another one where Hugo, actually, it was Hugo's fault that he had it in the first place, and he made a brilliant save.
Redeemed himself, didn't he, Lloris?
Yeah, to redeem himself. But honestly, I think if he is going to be that clinical, that when you get one shot, or one really clinical good shot, you take it.
Yeah, Klacko's a nice comment in the chat, Klacko. He says Mitrovic's goal against Spurs is a sign of a striker who's so focused on the end result of hitting the net, and he is. He's just a goal scorer.
He was really good.
Yeah.
He was really, he didn't have a lot of the ball. He didn't have a lot of chances, but when he did get one, he made sure he put it away. And I think that is why he, right now, even with Tony getting a hat trick, that's why Mitrovic for me remains the third striker of choice.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is that because of that, because of the way that Fulham play, certainly the way they played against you, he doesn't get a lot of the ball. He's not so much in the game involved. When he gets the ball, he'll do something with it. But in terms of the sort of key passes completed and shots on target and the sort of things that feed the underlying BPS, I don't know how nailed on he is for the free bonus points when he gets the goal. I noticed actually amongst forwards, in the top 10 forwards for this game week, for game week 6, he's not in the top 10.
But
he's not in the top 10.
He didn't get a lot of the ball. Whereas when he comes up against the teams that you just listed that he's got in the next few weeks,
I see what you mean.
Even Chelsea, they're going to let him have the ball because they're not playing well defensively. So you look at the fixtures that he's got coming out.
Time when he Mitrovic.
He will run riot. So you've got teams there, Forest. They are going to let him have the ball, and if you let Mitrovic have the ball, you are asking for trouble, because we let him have it once and he took it. We let him have it a second time, and my goodness, we were lucky that he didn't take it. We're the only team that can be winning 2-1. It should be 10, and we somehow nearly throw it away. Ridiculous. But Mitrovic, I really enjoyed his performance because he wasn't really in the game.
Very good,
but when he was needed, he was there. And I think with the fixtures coming up, you'll see him rise up that BPS because he'll be more involved.
Very good, very good. Lots more to discuss, Sam. We haven't talked about Chelsea 2, West Ham 1, and the terrible VAR decision. Oh, sorry, we can't talk about VAR. That was the worst one of the weekend. That was absolutely terrible.
I know we're not going to talk about this for long because it's late. But Reece James, we just have to have a word on him at the moment.
What's your problem with Reece James? You're so anti-big at the back at the moment, aren't you?
What's my problem with Reece James?
Yeah, what's your problem with Reece James?
Are you joking?
You don't want him either?
What's to like about Reece James?
You're going to be playing your wild card. You're going to have Nico Williams, you're going to have Patson, Saliba, 4.5s at the back. You're going to get rid of Mo and have McAllister. Also, you can get Harry Bloody Kane up top. I can already see your wild card now. Haaland, Kane, Mitrovic. Big up top, crap at the back. Never mind big at the back, it's going to be crap at the back.
No, it won't be all bad at the back, but
and Cancelo.
Yeah, he'll be there. Honestly though, Reece James, what an absolute mug. He can't be. Honestly, cannot be dealing with Reece James.
Oh my God.
I hate owning him. I despair with myself that I ever brought him in my team.
Isn't he like top for XGI amongst Chelsea players? Maybe second to Sterling. He's like got the most threat amongst all Chelsea players.
I don't care about threat. I care about points. Right, he doesn't get any. He's a waste of time. When he could get some points, he's sick and he doesn't play. Then he comes back into the team. He gets no attacking returns in a game where Chilwell gets 2. He can't keep a clean sheet. Honestly.
You want rid of him then as well? Who are you going to?
Anyone else?
You're so knee-jerk reactive this
Reece James. No, but this isn't reactive. I haven't not liked Reece James since I've owned him. Remember the minute I brought him in, I questioned why I'd made this choice in my life. It was a -4 as well for me to bring him in all those weeks ago.
And Lee Kennedy, who's in the chat, he also gets... You're going to love this. He also picks up quite a lot of bookings as well, Sam.
I know! And he's got to play Mitrovic next, who's going to score against him. So he's not getting a clean sheet, is he?
He's a really good player, Sam, but a player that's also doing very well in that price bracket. Actually, you could save yourself a few quid.
I got a bit upset there. I don't know why.
You did get a bit upset. He has got 3 7-pointers, as FPL Will points out in the chat. He's not exactly that bad. But Kieran Trippier is also popping up with the bonus points. I noticed, actually, for chances created, Trippier was top in this game with 6. There's a bunch of players on 5, but Trippier got 6. A lot of that is down to his corner taking, I understand that, but that's good. That feeds the underlying BPS, corners taken and set pieces, etc. And to underline that statistic, he was top by a country mile for crosses this game week, Trippier, with 15. The next best was Morgan Gibbs-White on 7, so over double the amount of crosses than the next best crosser.
You asked me who I'd sell Reece James for, and there, in a nutshell, is your answer.
Is Kieran Trippier.
Because I sold him a couple of weeks ago when he was flagged in the game, and they had a difficult game as well, didn't they? Man City. They played Man City. And the game after? The game, I benched him for Man City and sold him the one after. Difficult fixture. He was flagged. I sold him.
Yeah.
Because on Wildcard he's easy to get back. Well, I'm looking at Reece James and I'm looking at Kieran Trippier and I'm thinking I'd far rather have Kieran Trippier in my team than Reece James, and he's cheaper.
Yeah. All right, let's just look at the Newcastle fixtures going forward, because I remember looking at them thinking they look all right. West Ham, Bournemouth, Fulham, Brentford, Man United and Everton. There's some clean sheets and some attacking returns for Trippier.
I want Trippier back in.
Definitely one to have.
He's a priority in for me.
Definitely one to have. He looks very good indeed. Just a quick shout out for our Patreon before we get to our team, Sam. Patreon.com/FPLFamily. Thank you to everybody that's new and joined our Patreon for this year, for this month. 3 different tiers that you can get involved with if you want a little bit more FPL family in your life. We have the $3 Ohana tier, where you get bonus podcast Ohana every Friday. And access to our Slack community, where we've got all of our community. A lot of people who are in the live chats here on a Sunday are in that community as well. If you want to take a step up to the $5 tier, we also do a monthly competition. More on that in just a second, because we have an August Manager of the Month winner to announce. And if you want to get even more involved with us, you can go in at the $10 tier, where you get access to Sam and I directly. You can have Zoom calls with us about your wildcard, about your team. Just if you want a general chat about FPL, that is available to you as well.
Can't talk about Reece James, though, I'm afraid.
No VAR and no Reece James. Patreon.com/FPL family if you want to get a bit of that in your life. And we do have a winner for our August Manager of the Month, and it is now 2 times champion Lucy Kemba, who won it, I think last year, maybe the year before. I think maybe
she's our first lady to win it twice.
First female FPL family double winner. So great job by Nathan Joblin and by Paul Clark. Both of you guys did a fantastic job. All of these 3, by the way, having a sensational season. But Lucy is well and truly in the top 10k. I don't know how her game week 6 went to see whether she's still there. But at the end of game week 5, which was the end of August, she was our Manager of the Month. So well done,
score, by
Lucy.
The way, Lucy.
Absolutely brilliant. 379 points in the month of August. So what we'll now do is we reset all the scores to 0 and we go and start the September Manager of the Month competition. So if you are considering, or if you thought about joining us over on Patreon, now is a really good time to do it, because we're just starting our September Manager of the Month competition. So patreon.com FPL Family if you think you can beat Paul and Nathan and Lucy to September's Manager of the Month prize. And you get all sorts of prizes. You get signed shirts like this. You can get signed street signs like above the one above Sam's head, that if you can see it, which I'm not sure you can.
I could do with an update, really.
On the webcam. But there's, I think we need to get on touch with our sponsors and get that updated.
Kane, Ericsson and Ali?
Dele Alli on there is not a great shout, is it? Yeah,
no.
We ought to probably change that. So we'll get on to our sponsors there. But well done to Nathan, to Paul, and of course to Lucy for winning our Manager of the Month competition for August. Congratulations, Lucy. Congratulations. So, Sam, let's get on to game week 6 and talk about our teams. A very average to below par week for me. Pretty below par. Game week score of 40. A game week rank of something 6.8 million. Really, just really not very good. Haaland captain was good. Apart from that, my differentials really didn't pay off well. Gross got the 5, but the second McAllister goal pushed Gross out of the bonus points from 2 down to 0. So it could have been 7 for Gross, which would have been a nice return. But 5 is sort of okay. Trent was, of course, 2 minutes away from getting a 6. The Sanchez clean sheet went within 50 seconds, which was quite honestly phenomenal.
Nico Williams, I thought, was on for a massive haul.
Nico
as well,
popping up with 4 is good.
Yeah, but I thought he was on for a haul because at one point he was 2-0 up, he'd got an assist, and I was like, yes, this is the haul we've been talking about. And then they conceded 3.
He has got a double-digit haul in him. It's coming.
Oh, he has,
It's coming. You can feel it. But my differential's really not doing the business. So Foden, I'm starting to lose a little bit of patience with. And actually, when we had that conversation about having a bit of fun for the next couple of weeks,
that's the spot.
That's the spot I'm probably thinking about having a bit of fun with, and maybe switching him up and having somebody come in for Archer maybe up front. I don't know. Let's see. But the Foden switch is one I'm quite keen to make, particularly with Spurs up next. That's not going to be an easy game. I mean, I know we've seen Spurs and City games in the past be very high scoring. But I just did not...
That's not the way we're playing right now.
No, doesn't feel like it. Doesn't feel like it. And I absolutely did not want to take Foden out ahead of Aston Villa because I thought they'd win that by a canter, actually. But Villa did very well. So that is the spot, if any, where I might have a bit of fun next week. But
any money in the bank?
I have about $1 million in the bank.
Okay.
Yes, I have about $1 million in the bank. But the big at the back, as you've suggested, absolutely in the bin. Trent with 1, Cancelo with 2, James with 1.
You want to sell James as well?
No, absolutely not. Because
Would you sell him for Trippier? Would you sell any of them for Trippier? Somebody's got to go for Trippier.
Well, maybe Saliba goes for Trippier. I don't know. I have got the money in the bank to do that.
Got Everton next.
Yeah, maybe.
They can't score.
No, maybe. But Reece James, no. No, I mean, Fofana coming in, you think that means he's going to be right wing. He will get unleashed, I think. And he is Chelsea's most dangerous player as well as one of their most creative players. If Chelsea are going to get points, he is going to be amongst it, I think, going forward now that Fofana's there. So no rush to sell him. I'm not... Listen, he's not top of my favourites list right now, but I'm not quite negging on him quite as much as you are.
It's just me that's gone on Reece James.
Nor am I with Trent either. I'm not selling him or Salah ahead of Wolves at home, right? Let's see over the next couple of weeks. I want to get Thiago back. Let's see how that changes the dynamic of the team. These are 2 players which have been locks for us for 3 or 4 years. I'm not about to just sell them because we're having a bit of a bad patch,
bring him back though.
Yeah, maybe.
You just said have fun. You said.
Yeah, but there's other spots I'm going to have fun with. Liverpool at home to Wolves. Not going to have fun with that. I might have fun with Foden at Spurs, but let's see. Anyway, an overall rank change of minus 78%, 274k, which is fine. Listen, it's not the end of the world, right? Well, I'll happily sit at 274k right now. That is fine. Talk me through your team for the week. 39 points, so just 1 down from me. An overall rank of 2.8. So this week in total has actually been it's been better for you. Game week 5 was good for you, wasn't it? We just never did a live stream because it was midweek.
I had a great game week 5. It's typical, isn't it?
Yeah.
I had a great game week 5 and I hadn't captained Haaland. So had I captained Haaland, it would have been...
You went Salah cap game week 5, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I had 86 with Salah cap. So, had I captained Haaland, I'd have been in the mid-90s and it would have been because I took 2 million off my rank. So actually I had a really good game week then. This one not so much. Like you said, it was just... This team, genuinely, I looked at going into this week and was like... I really, really thought very hard. And on Wednesday night, when Spurs and Liverpool were both playing, and you'll testify to this, I was that close, up until about 96 minutes, to doing a -4 to take Salah out for Kane ahead of this weekend. And then Salah got that second assist, and I was like, oh, God, give him another week now, haven't I? I'll give him this game against Everton. He's got a great record against them, blah, 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 blah. In the mud. However, everything was just... It was a good week to have a bad week, though. It was.
Yeah,
because
a
lot of the players that people were expecting to do well just didn't. So I'm not panicking on my team, apart from Reece James. I look at the rest of them and think, actually, that's a lie. Liverpool... Those 3 Liverpool spots, it's overkill. It is 100% overkill to have 3 Liverpool assets right now. Even going into a game against Wolves, it is overkill to have 3 Liverpool.
Yeah.
So I've got 2 free transfers, and I do want to. That needs to change.
All right, we'll talk about bus teams in just a second. So overall rank of 2.8, a rank change of minus 19.9. So not exactly a happy household here, but. As you suggested, I think unless you've got Tony or Rashford, I think there's a lot that are sort of in and around that sort of 35 to 45 bracket. I think there's a lot of us that are there, and I don't think it's going to be... Listen, I think it's a game week to quickly forget and move on. Thank you for the super chat, Duncan Crawford. He says, Sam, we should help each other while on Wildcard together. I'll bring the rice cakes, he says.
I mean, I'm up for that.
He's in. You're in for that. You're in. So there we go. Let's move on from that and talk about... our bus teams going forward. How are you looking for next week? The team doesn't look too bad on paper at all, but,
we had
you
this
do have
week.
2 free transfers, so what are you planning to do?
Sell Luis Diaz and Reece James.
Right. Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, Luis Diaz I think is going to go. I am...
Funny that both of us are thinking of getting rid of our 8 million midfielders. That's a slot which... hasn't exactly...
But we said in pre-season that was the important spot, wasn't it? That's what I was banging on for ages about, how I thought that was going to be really important. And I just haven't felt it. I haven't felt the love with it.
It felt important because there's a lot of options, and there still are a lot of options there at that 8 million bracket, like Mount, Kulusevski, Foden, Luis Diaz, but no one's really stood out, have they?
I can feel me going Luis Diaz down, Reece James to Trippier, and then having a -4 to bring in Mitrovic.
Oof, right, okay.
I can feel myself doing it already. So then the question is, if I'm doing that, should I just wildcard?
With 2 free transfers? No, come on.
But the thing that pissed me off wildcarding is that I know that if I wildcarded, I'd have Cancelo, I'd have Trent, I'd have Haaland, I'd have Kane.
Have Trent. You've just been negging on him all
I didn't mean Trent. I'd have KDB, I'd have Cancelo, I'd have Haaland.
Right.
I'd have Kane, I'd have... another Spurs player, probably Perisic. So I'd have 5 in that one game, which massively puts me off doing the wild card right now. So and then I'd go in with some cheaper options. I'd probably keep Veltman. I'd have Trippier and players like that. So the way I'm feeling at the moment, I could wild card, but I don't think it's the right moment because the players I'd be targeting are about to play each other in a game I would find it hard to call. So I think it will be Luis Diaz out. Maybe for Gross, but I might go back to Rashford.
Would you have Gross over Trossard right now? Trossard was sensational, wasn't he?
I like McAllister as well. One of the Brighton 3. Any one of the Brighton 3. I like Rashford.
What a goal that was by McAllister today, by the way. Which VAR absolutely... Oh, sorry, I'm not talking about VAR. VAR, another moment ruined by VAR. What a goal from McAllister.
By the way, if you watch me on PL Fan Zone, called out Brandon Johnson and McAllister.
Listen, you're on pretty much every fantasy podcast every week.
Differentials for this week.
If you throughout the week, you're on about 7 or 8 different things.
I say the same thing.
If you just have different names for each of those. Listen, you could cover every player going in the game.
I say the same thing though.
Right, okay.
Brandon Johnson and McAllister were my differentials for this week. They're like the jammy
Neither
picks.
of them in your team.
No. And do you know, I sat there, I think I told the guys in the Slack this, obviously I sat with Max at Spurs, who has Brandon Johnson in his team. And my phone vibrated.
Max got Brandon Johnson?
Yeah, my phone vibrated in my pocket and I was like, oh, Max, it's a Nottingham Forest penalty. And he went, is it Johnson? And I went, I don't know, dude, hang on. So I'm trying to watch Spurs. I'm looking up, I was like, oh, it's a Nico Williams assist. He's like, yes. And then he's like, is it Brandon Johnson? Because he's a massive differential for me. I was like...
He's getting so into FPL, I love it.
To be fair, I think he's above you.
He probably is.
I think he's overtaken you this week.
Is, yeah.
He's got like 49 or something this week.
Yeah.
I shared his team ID with the guys in the Slack so they could follow him.
I think so. Before this season, he knew Kane, Salah, and Pickford. That's all he knew. Now he knows Brennan Johnson. Now he knows Nico Williams is a good differential.
And now he's talking about differentials and asking me when I said to him, as we were sitting there, I went, "Oh, Max, Chelsea have conceded." He went, "Oh, Reece James's clean sheet. And I was like, what's happened to my 8-year-old child that you're interested in this stuff? I'm here for it, by the way. So, yes, Luis Diaz, Reece James are top of the hit list. There are some other players I'm not loving in my team, but they're probably the ones I love the least.
Go on then. All right, well, listen.
What about you? What are you doing?
Well, I think based on the analysis that I chucked up on the screen earlier, I won't be benching Nico Williams against Leeds. I think that's...
Who are you going to bench then?
Well, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be in my starting 11.
Reece James.
I don't know.
It's quite hard to bench this week.
Well, look at my team. As usual, the template looks pretty good on paper, right? But I must admit, I am starting to be a little frustrated at Foden. I saw some comments in the chat about the fact he's a victim of pep roulette. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. He started a lot of games this season.
Just goes off a bit early.
He comes off a little bit early, but he started pretty much every game and has looked reasonably dangerous. And he's ticking over. It's not as if he's not got me any points. But every time I look at his effective ownership in and around where I am on my rank, it's like 5 or 6%. I'm like, oh, if only, I've been a Foden double-digit haul away from the top 100k for weeks now, but he doesn't seem to get it. He seems to just come away with just an assist, or he doesn't square it to bloody Haaland or something, right? So I'm wondering whether that is the slot where I might have a little bit of fun. And I was very impressed with Anthony today. I was very impressed. And I was impressed with Rashford as well. So if I was going to take Foden out, it probably would be for a Manchester United player.
Yeah.
And I must admit, the Palace game on paper does look pretty difficult, but I am going to watch that match, and I would like to have some FPL interest in it.
I love that you're randomly going to watch Crystal Palace versus Man United.
I am going to Palace Man U next week with work, so I'm quite looking forward to that. And then United have got a decent fixture in game week 8 as well, so I'm not averse, and it feels a little bit knee-jerk because of what's happened today and the good performance they've had, but United are on a very good run, and the Ten Hag thing seems to be working. So I think Foden to an Anthony or Foden to Rashford looks an all right shout.
I can feel myself going back to Rashford already.
I'm tempted to do that. Elsewhere, though, I don't feel as if anything needs too much work. I'm happy with Gross. He's going away to Bournemouth. That's okay. Jesus and Martinelli, no panic after the Manchester United game today, and Saliba's in there as well. As far as it's a bad week for the template, I think, but it continues to look pretty good, the template. I don't think it's too bad. So Foden is the only one. What would you do if you had my team? Is Foden the one you'd maybe have a look at as well? Because I'm looking at your team and thinking Luis Diaz is probably the what I would change as well, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I'd sell Foden.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. Those are our bus teams for next week. Lots of football, though, guys, still to be played between now and game week 7, because of course it is European week. We've got Champions League games coming up, so hold those transfers for as long as you can, because listen, lots of football still to be played throughout the week. What is coming up, Sam, this week with the FPL family community outside of the Champions League games?
I'll be on the podcast as always, the FPL podcast this week. That'll be on Thursday morning. Ahana will be out on Friday. I believe I'm writing a pro pundit article this week, so if you want to, if you're fed up of hearing my voice, just want to read my opinion on stuff, then that'll be there. But yeah, otherwise, it's back to school. Like, I'm planning to have a bit of a sleep.
The children are going back to school. This is we love them dearly, of course we do, but it'd be nice to have a bit more flexibility in the days, wouldn't it? Yes, it would.
Thank you, schools. Thank you, teachers. You have been missed. You have been missed. Back to school.
And we'll have an Ohana podcast as usual on Friday. Any Sky Sports stuff going on Saturday?
No, not this time around. Okay. We'll be on in a couple of weeks' time. Go on, I'll ask you the question. What's happened? Oh, before I ask you about TikTok. We passed 11k subs on Instagram this week.
Okay, very good.
So I was very excited about that. That has taken a while. We've been kind of stuck on 10.4 for literally about...
Thank you, Instagrammers.
6 months. So thank you, Instagrammers. If you don't follow us over on Instagram, I was doing all sorts of reactions and stuff from the stadium this week, and trying to be as around as much as possible at the weekend. So that will continue. Obviously, I'll do some reactions and stuff to the Champions League this week. So if you don't follow us over on Instagram, head over. It's just at FPL Family, and give me a follow.
Very good. All right, the TikTok is going strong,
is it?
As usual, yes. And we've got a lot of YouTube shorts as well. I hope you're enjoying those on the channel.
Did you TikTok from Spurs?
I did not TikTok from Spurs because I had a 6-year-old with me who would have wanted to be in the TikTok.
Oh, you should let her.
I don't know.
Max can I really talk about Brennan Johnson?
On some stage, I'm sure our kids are going to get involved with the TikTok because they know it better than us, quite frankly. So lots coming up over the course of the week. And of course, as Gavin Doyle says, hello Gavin, how are you, mate? Very nice to see you. Doing very well this season, by the way, Gavin Doyle. Very, very good this season. And I noticed he's doing very well in Fantasy Bundesliga as well. Did you see that?
I did see that.
He's absolutely smashing it over there in Fantasy Bundesliga. Gavin Doyle, as he quite rightly says, could everyone just call your jets on the transfers? Lots of European football to be played. Gavin, by the way, this does not mean that everyone will call their jets on transfers. There will be a lot of knee-jerking tonight. Gabriel Jesus going down in price is going to happen by the looks of it. But my view on it is that you let it happen. Lots of football still to be played, and we make our decisions toward the end of the week.
Well, I mean, that's what I'll be doing.
That's what I'll be doing. Guys, leave us a like before you go. Thank you for joining us here on tonight's FPL Family. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you this time next Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Until then, good luck and enjoy the Champions League. The Champions!
Oh my God, it's back!
See you guys.
Green arrows, guys.